with some basic stuff on how to create a new part. So if you look at your Inventor, like on AutoCAD, over to the left, everything starts off with the same new and open. There's also a quick access right here. This is the little block for a single IPT file. So that's one part. Okay. If you look at this one right here, that's the assembly drawing. That's bringing multiple pieces together. So I'm going to click on that one right there. That is a IPT file. You can name your drawing the exact same name as something you've done before, but because the AutoCAD file is a .dwg, Inventor is an IPT file, so it doesn't make any difference if you use the same name. Alright, so when it comes up, it's coming up in the 3D model. We do need to create a new sketch because we don't have anything to work with right now. So we're going to click on the Start 2D Sketch. This is where we get into our planes. If you look at this right here, there is the XY plane. And if you look up here at the right-hand corner, there's the blocks, and you can see where the XY plane is parallel with the front view. The YZ plane is parallel with the right side view, and then the XZ plane is parallel with the top view. So depending on the view that you want to start with, that's going to depend on the plane that you're going to start. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to start with the front view, and I'm going to click on my XY plane. So when we look over here at the left-hand side, you should be familiar with all of these commands. These are the same commands that you've been working with in AutoCAD. There's the line command, the circle, the arc, rectangle. We can fill it. We can add text. We can move stuff, copy, rotate, trim, extend. So we have all of those options, and they're exactly the same. So you should be familiar with that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over each one of those. So I'm going to start off with the line command. When you start off your first drawing, I want you to make sure that you pick the origin. Okay, so you try to tie the view back to the origin at some point. So usually that's just the first point that I pick. Now, when we go into the sketch mode, you will see that this. Your line command, you've seen the same thing in AutoCAD where you can actually specify the dimension in that box right there, and you can specify the angle. So typing that in is exactly the same as an AutoCAD. So you can type in 1 and then hit tab and then switch to the angle, and then you can type in the angle and it will lock it in. You can also just drag the line over, and then you can come back and change the dimension. So I'll show you that. When you type in the dimension is actually shown there on your sketch mode. It's not the same thing as dimensioning like you just finished in Chapter 9. This is just telling me that's the length of that line. Okay, so you don't have to go back and list it. You don't have to go back and click on dimension to see what you drew it as. It just stays right there on your screen. So I'm going to put that one at 6.2. I'm going to go perpendicular, and you'll see that the constraints, we use a lot of constraints, that kind of locks this down. When I click down here, that little perpendicular sign pops up, and that's saying that that line is now locked in and it's perpendicular to the one that I'm picking. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to go perpendicular or go back to my origin. Now, the one thing I did not specify was the length of this line. Okay, so I'm going to pick the dimension. If I wanted to change this, I can click dimension the value, and watch what happens when when I change this. Let's say I didn't want it to be 6.20. I want that line to be 1 inch. I can type in 1 inch, hit the check button, and the drawing automatically changes for you. Okay, so think about what you would have to go through in AutoCAD to get that. You would have to erase the lines, you would have to offset, you would have to move things, or you would have to stretch it. All right. So right here, when you finish this, after you make your final sketch, okay, we've got the front view, we've laid it out. You're going to right click and go into the finished sketch. Okay, so I just rotated that around so you could see what that's going to look like. If we clicked on the front view, that's our front view, and then you can use this box right here to rotate and see what it's going to look like when we extrude it. So the next thing on our list is to extrude, and this is such a repetitive pattern, sketching and extruding. Go to extrude. I'm going to pick the profile. So that's the only profile right now that's available. And now I can specify the distance. Just to let you know, when you first open up your Inventor, you're probably going to have your dialog box closed like that. You have two options. You have this dialog box where you can click on the down arrow and you can see the words, and you can see where it says profile solids. You can see the output. You can see all of the directions. You can change the direction in which it extrudes. You can divide it. You can do specific dimensions. Or you can use this little icon right here. This stays on your screen. You can also enter the same information over here. This is just kind of like a shortcut. This was just added in the last couple versions of Inventor. But you can also do the same stuff here. You can get to the same directions. You can click on those. You can change that, and then you can hit the check button, and that will draw your sketch. I mean your extrusion. So this is the basic. We just created one basic sketch and one basic extrusion. So if I wanted to go and add another piece to this, I start this whole process over again. I go back to my sketch mode. I pick the surface in which I want to work on. Let's say I want to go to this. I want to have a piece that comes out from this surface right here. So I'm going to pick on that surface, and it automatically orients that for me. I go in and I draw. Oops, I did not pick that point. All right, so I sketched the box in there. Notice I didn't specify the dimensions. So now I'm going to go back in here and specify my dimensions. I'm just showing you like two different methods for this. So I'm just going to specify my dimensions now. Let's make that 0.5. Okay, so I do have the point oriented over here on the right hand corner, so I don't need to specify that anymore. So there's my sketch. Here's my extrusion. Now this time I have different surfaces. I have this surface here I could pick, or this one, and I've already selected that profile. I can specify the dimension right here. Okay. You can also pick on that arrow and drag it. So if you could see the numbers, which you probably can't, they're moving in like increments of maybe 1/8 of an inch. So you can drag that out. So you can see how maybe in the design process that would be kind of cool that you can pick that. So if I wanted to make that 0.75, I can also drag it or type in the number. So the orbit, also if I click on orbit, that also allows me to rotate my object and look at it. So this side I'm going to put a hole in it. Let's go over here to this side. Create a 2D sketch. Click on the surface, and now I'm going to put a circle. I'm just going to randomly locate that and randomly do a size. So for this Now I need to locate where that circle is going to be in reference to this point. So I can use my dimension command. And I'm going to locate that 0.375. So what I was doing is I was locating the circle from the edge. Notice that when I first drew that, I didn't say, where I wanted the circle. So like in AutoCAD, a lot of times you would either offset a line or you would draw a line from like a point and you would go over and then you would locate the center. So the first thing I did was I just drew the circle, and now I'm going back and using the dimension command to actually locate that circle. So this is the part that's just a little bit different in Inventor, is that you draw or you sketch up the part and then you locate it. So the first thing I've done here is I've located it X and Y. What else am I missing? Did you notice anything that I did not do?
The circle.
What about the circle? I didn't ever specify a diameter. So that's something I also need to do. So when you dimension a circle in Inventor, it always comes up with the diameter. So that is a little bit different. So it's not always looking for the radius. It is usually looking for the diameter. So I need to specify the diameter as well. So 3 things that you need to always make sure. You locate it vertical, horizontal, and then you give the actual diameter of the actual circle. So that's what I've done there. After I do that, I click my finish sketch, and what do I move over to now?
The other axis.
No. What do I do? I sketch something, and then what? No, we sketch and then we extrude, okay? So you're always going from sketching to extrude, sketch, extrude, sketch, extrude. So right now I have the circle there, but I don't have a hole in my part, right? No hole?
No.
I just have a circle.
No, there's a hole.
There's not a hole there. That is a circle sketched on the surface of this right here. So let's make that a hole, okay? So I go to extrude, right? So I'm going to extrude. But think about this, guys. Look. So I can either make the part a solid, okay? Guys, y'all need to look at this. I can make it a solid. This is the join button right here. That is the solid. Or if I go to the one right below it, that is the cut. So if I click on cut, that now cuts that part instead of it joining material. So it's either you cut it or you join the material. So right there, I just cut, I hit OK, and now I have a hole going through that part. Uh-oh. The hole didn't go all the way through, okay? So I didn't specify the dimension. So guess what? I can go back in here and I can edit the feature and I can specify. I can either do 2 things. I can pull this arrow through, I can drag it through, or I can type in the number. So right here I just drug it through. I could specify this distance. It's probably 1. And it would go all the way through. Or there's a nice little button over here that says to next, and it would go through the next surface. So I have 2 options there. So, oops, let me go back to my orbit, rotate that around, and there's the hole. All right. So let's do this. Let me show you real quick, and I know I've gone a little long with this. So I'm going to save this as a part number. I'm going to just save this. Let me find somewhere to save it.
Where do you want to save it in our folder?
I want you to create a new folder that's called Inventor.
Okay.
All right, so you can just make yourself a new folder. I'm going to put this as sample 1. So it saves as an IPT file. Now, here's the nice part. I'm going to keep this on my screen. I'm going to start a new drawing. Okay? Watch. You will be amazed. Starting a new drawing, I'm clicking on the ANSI IDW file. That is our title block that we're now going to be using. Click on that ANSI IDW file.